Have you ever looked at your garden in August and thought, I guess I missed my chance to plant flowers this year? You're definitely not alone, but that might be one of the biggest gardening mistakes people make. In fact, some of the most beautiful flowers for late summer and fall can still be planted right now. With the right choices, your garden can stay colorful for weeks, attract butterflies and bees, and keep blooming long after many summer flowers have faded. And before we get started, let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I planted one of the flowers on today's list without expecting much from it. But by the time it reached full bloom, my wife, who usually enjoys the garden but leaves the planting to me, couldn't stop talking about it. She even started calling that corner of the yard our favorite spot. The funny thing is, it probably isn't the flower you'd guess. I'll tell you which one it was before we finish today's countdown. Along the way, I'll also share a few simple tips to help each flower thrive. Whether you're planting in raised beds, containers, or directly in the ground. So, if you're ready to give your garden one last burst of color before fall arrives, let's start with number 10. Sure, zinnias, the more you cut, the more they bloom. If you're looking for a flower that gives you months of color without demanding constant attention, it's hard to beat zinnias. They're one of those flowers that seem to reward you the more time you spend enjoying them. Bright, cheerful, and incredibly easy to grow, zinnias continue blooming long after many summer flowers begin to slow down. If you live in an area with a long growing season, August is still a great time to sow zinnia seeds directly into warm soil. In cooler regions, nursery-grown transplants are the better option, giving you colorful blooms before the first frost arrives. What I love most about zinnias is how effortlessly they fit into almost any garden. They look just as beautiful lining a vegetable bed as they do filling a dedicated flower border or brightening a few containers on the patio. But here's something that always makes me smile. One afternoon, my son wandered into the backyard while I was cutting a few flowers to bring inside. He looked at the bucket, picked out the brightest zinnia, and asked if he could put it in a little vase on the kitchen table. A few days later, he asked if we could cut more. That's when I realized something many gardeners already know: zinnias are flowers meant to be shared. The amazing part is that cutting them doesn't hurt the plant at all. In fact, it does exactly the opposite. The more mature flowers you harvest, the more new stems the plant sends out, giving you even more blooms throughout the season. Besides being wonderful cut flowers, zinnias are also magnets for butterflies. On warm afternoons, it's common to see swallowtails, monarchs, and bees moving from bloom to bloom, bringing your garden to life with constant activity. To keep them performing their best, plant them in full sun, where they'll receive at least 6 hours of direct light each day. Well-draining soil and deep watering at the base of the plant will help prevent common problems like powdery mildew during humid weather. Garden tip: don't be afraid to cut your flowers. Many beginners leave every bloom on the plant because they don't want to lose them. Ironically, harvesting mature zinnias encourages even more flowers to develop. So your garden often becomes fuller with every bouquet you bring indoors. If you enjoy flowers that are easy to grow, loved by pollinators, and beautiful enough to brighten your home, zinnias are an excellent place to start. But if bold colors aren't quite your style, the next flower offers something completely different. A timeless classic with a soft fragrance and an old-fashioned charm that never goes out of style. Dianthus, a cottage garden favorite that never goes out of style. Some flowers grab your attention from across the yard. Dianthus invites you to step a little closer. With its delicate fringed petals and light clove-like fragrance, it's one of those flowers people often don't fully appreciate until they're standing right beside it. Late August is an excellent time to plant Dianthus in many parts of the country. The soil is still warm enough for roots to establish quickly, while the cooler weather ahead encourages healthy growth and another beautiful flush of blooms. Their compact size makes them perfect for edging walkways, filling containers, or adding color along the front of flower beds. They never overwhelm the garden, yet somehow always make it feel more welcoming. A few summers ago, one of our neighbors stopped while walking their dog and asked what that wonderful scent was. They looked around expecting to see a large flowering shrub. Instead, I pointed to a small patch of Dianthus growing along the edge of the path. They laughed and said, "I never would have guessed something that small could smell that good." Since then, every spring and fall, they plant a few more Dianthus around their own front yard. Moments like that remind me that gardening has a funny way of spreading from one yard to another. Good ideas are contagious. Dianthus grows best in full sun, although gardeners in hotter climates may want to provide a little afternoon shade during the warmest weeks. Well-draining soil is important. And once established, these plants are surprisingly drought-tolerant. The flowers come in beautiful shades of white, pink, rose, crimson, leona, and bicolor combinations, making them easy to blend with almost any garden design. Bees and butterflies appreciate them as well, adding another reason to give them a place in your landscape. Garden tip: after each flush of flowers, trim away the spent flower stems instead of leaving them on the plant. This simple task encourages fresh growth and often rewards you with another round of blooms before the season is over. Dianthus may not be the biggest flower in the garden, but it's often one of the most memorable. And speaking of memorable flowers, the next one is a true North American native that doesn't just brighten your garden, it also turns it into a favorite destination for bees, butterflies, and even songbirds. Black-eyed Susan, a flower that gives back more than it takes. If you're the kind of gardener who loves flowers that practically take care of themselves, Black-eyed Susan deserves a spot in your garden. With its bright golden petals and dark center, it's one of those flowers that instantly makes a garden feel warm and welcoming. But what I appreciate most isn't just how it looks, it's how much life it brings into the yard. Every late summer, I notice the same thing. Before I even grab my morning coffee, the bees are already busy working the flowers. By afternoon, butterflies have joined them. And later in the season, the seed heads often attract small songbirds. It's amazing how one simple plant can support so much wildlife. That's one of the reasons I recommend Black-eyed Susan to almost every beginner gardener. Once it's established, it handles heat, dry spells, and less than perfect soil surprisingly well. It doesn't ask for much, yet it gives your garden months of color in return. Plant it in full sun with well-drained soil, and you'll be rewarded with sturdy plants that continue blooming as many summer flowers begin to fade. Garden tip: instead of cutting every flower down in fall, leave a few seed heads standing. They'll feed birds through the cooler months and add a little extra character to your garden even after the blooms are gone. Personally, I think every garden should have at least one flower that benefits wildlife as much as it benefits the gardener, and for me, this is one of the best. But if you prefer something softer and a little more romantic, the next flower creates an entirely different feeling. Cosmos. Sometimes less really is more. Some flowers try to steal the spotlight. Cosmos simply lets nature do the work. Their tall stems sway gently in the breeze, creating a relaxed, cottage garden look that never feels forced. In my opinion, they're one of the easiest flowers for making a garden look natural instead of overly planned. If you're gardening in a warmer region, August is still a great time to sow cosmos from seed. In cooler climates, young transplants will give you blooms much sooner. One thing I've learned over the years is that cosmos actually performs better when you don't fuss over it too much. Rich soil and too much fertilizer usually produce lots of leaves but fewer flowers. Give it sunshine, decent drainage, and just enough water to get established, and it'll do the rest. I remember a neighbor once asking how I managed to keep my flower beds looking so full late in the season. The truth was, the cosmos were doing most of the work. Their soft foliage filled the empty spaces, while butterflies seemed to visit almost every afternoon. Sometimes the simplest plants make the biggest difference. Garden tip: if you're tempted to fertilize cosmos regularly, don't. A little restraint usually means more flowers and stronger stems. For gardeners who want beautiful blooms without adding another high-maintenance plant to the yard, cosmos is hard to beat. And speaking of flowers that are both beautiful and practical, the next one is a favorite of gardeners who enjoy bringing a little bit of the garden straight to the dinner table. Luke. Nasturtiums. Beautiful enough to grow. Delicious enough to eat. Most flowers earn a place in the garden because they're beautiful. Nasturtiums earn that place twice. Not only do they produce cheerful blooms in shades of fiery orange, sunny yellow, rich red, and soft cream, but nearly every part of the plant is edible. The flowers add a splash of color to salads, while the leaves have a mild, peppery flavor that's often compared to arugula. It's one of the few flowers that combines ornamental beauty with practical use, making it a favorite among gardeners who enjoy growing their own food. If you're gardening in a region where the hottest days of summer are beginning to ease, August can still be a wonderful time to plant nasturtiums. The warm soil encourages quick germination, and the slightly cooler temperatures that follow help the plants establish without the stress of midsummer heat. In warmer parts of the country, they'll often continue blooming well into fall. One of the best things about nasturtiums is how adaptable they are. Compact varieties spill beautifully over the edges of containers and hanging baskets, while trailing types can weave through raised beds or soften the edges of garden paths. They also pair surprisingly well with vegetables, adding color while attracting pollinators and beneficial insects. Interestingly, nasturtiums have long been used as companion plants. Many gardeners grow them near tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, and beans because they're believed to help draw aphids away from more valuable crops. While no flower can completely eliminate garden pests, adding more plant diversity often creates a healthier, more balanced garden ecosystem. When growing nasturtiums, remember that less is often more. They actually perform better in average or even slightly poor soil. Rich soil encourages lush green leaves but fewer flowers. Give them a sunny location with well-drained soil. Water regularly while they're getting established, and then allow the surface to dry slightly between waterings. Garden tip: don't overfeed nasturtiums. Skip high nitrogen fertilizers if your goal is lots of flowers. Too much fertilizer usually means beautiful leaves, but far fewer blooms, whether you're planting them for pollinators, for edible flowers, or simply because they brighten every corner they touch. Nasturtiums prove that one plant really can do it all. Now let's move to a flower that's much smaller in size, but just as impressive when cooler weather arrives. Woo! Violas, small flowers that keep blooming when others stop. At first glance, violas may seem too delicate to make much of an impact, but don't let their size fool you. These charming little flowers are some of the hardest working plants in the garden, producing an incredible number of blooms during the cooler weeks of late summer, fall, and even early spring in many parts of the country. If you've ever admired colorful window boxes outside cafes or neatly planted flower beds in early autumn, chances are you've already seen violas at work. Unlike many annual flowers that struggle once temperatures begin to fall, Violas actually welcome cooler weather. Planting them in August gives them time to establish while the soil is still warm, setting the stage for weeks of continuous color. As the season changes, their compact habit makes them incredibly versatile. Tuck them along the edges of raised beds. Fill empty spaces in container. Brighten a front porch, or create a colorful border along a garden path. Because they stay relatively small, they fit almost anywhere. Violas are available in an amazing range of colors from soft, white, and buttery yellow to deep purple, rich blue, burgundy, and striking bicolor combinations. Many varieties feature delicate faces in the center of each bloom, giving them a cheerful personality that appeals to gardeners of all ages. Although they're often planted for their appearance, violas also provide an important source of nectar during seasons when fewer flowers are available. Bees frequently visit them on mild autumn days, making them another valuable addition to a pollinator-friendly landscape. For the healthiest plants, grow violas in full sun where autumn temperatures are cool, or provide a little afternoon shade if your August weather is still especially warm. Keep the soil evenly moist but never soggy, and remove faded flowers regularly to encourage fresh blooms. Garden tip: deadheading only takes a few seconds, but it can dramatically extend the flowering season. By removing spent blooms before they form seeds, you'll encourage the plant to keep producing new flowers instead of ending its life cycle early. Violas may never become the tallest flowers in your garden, but they'll often become some of the most dependable, adding cheerful color long after many summer annuals have faded away. And speaking of dependable fall color, our next flower is one of America's favorite cool season bloomers. Its large, velvety blossoms have brightened gardens, porches, and window boxes for generations, and there's a very good reason gardeners continue planting it year after year. Pansies, the flower that welcomes cooler days. As summer slowly gives way to fall, few flowers make the transition as beautifully as pansies. Their large, velvety blooms and incredible range of colors have made them one of America's favorite cool season flowers for generations. From cheerful yellows and deep purples to rich burgundy, white, and striking two-tone varieties, there's a pansy to match almost every garden style. Many gardeners wait until temperatures begin to cool before planting, but getting pansies into the ground during late August or early September in many regions gives them a valuable head start. Warm soil encourages strong root growth, while the cooler weeks ahead allow the plants to produce an abundance of flowers without the stress of intense summer heat. Pansies are perfect for containers, window boxes, porch planters, and flower bed borders. Because they stay compact, they're also ideal for filling empty spaces left behind by fading summer annuals. Although they look delicate, pansies are surprisingly tough. Many varieties can tolerate light frosts and continue blooming long after other flowers have called it a season. For the best performance, plant them in fertile, well-draining soil, and keep the soil consistently moist. Full sun is ideal once temperatures cool, though gardeners in warmer regions may want to provide light afternoon shade during the hottest part of late summer. Garden tip: remove faded blooms every few days. It only takes a minute, but regular deadheading keeps pansies producing fresh flowers instead of putting their energy into making seeds. If you're hoping for a colorful garden that carries beautifully into autumn, pansies are one of the safest choices you can make. Now let's move to a flower that brings both height and elegance to the late-season garden. Snapdragons, the flower my wife couldn't stop photographing. Earlier in the video, I mentioned there was one flower that completely won my wife over. Well, this is the one. A couple of years ago, I planted a row of snapdragons along the fence because that part of the garden felt a little flat. I wasn't trying to create anything special, I just wanted a bit more height and color. But once they came into full bloom, something unexpected happened. Almost every evening, when the sunlight turned golden, my wife would stop for a minute before going back inside. She'd pull out her phone, take a few pictures, and say, "These flowers look different every single day." Before long, whenever friends or family came over, that was the first corner of the garden she wanted to show them. That's when I realized something. As gardeners, we often spend so much time thinking about what grows the fastest or blooms the longest that we forget how a flower can simply make people slow down and appreciate the moment. For me, snapdragons have always done exactly that. Beyond their beauty, they're also one of the best flowers to plant. As late summer begins to cool, they thrive in full sun, enjoy well-drained soil, and establish quickly while the ground is still warm. In many parts of the country, they'll reward you with vibrant blooms that last well into fall. Their tall flower spikes also add something. Many gardens are missing vertical interest. Instead of everything blooming at the same height, snapdragons naturally draw your eyes upward, giving flower beds a fuller, more layered look. They're also excellent cut flowers. Bringing a few stems indoors not only brightens the house, but often encourages the plant to produce even more blooms. Garden tip: if you're planting snapdragons in containers, choose compact varieties. Save the taller varieties for flower beds where they have room to grow and won't need as much support. I still smile every time I walk past that flower bed. Not because it's the biggest or the brightest, but because it reminds me that sometimes the flowers we plant for ourselves end up becoming someone else's favorite too. Now, if you're looking for a flower that fills empty spaces with color instead of height, the next one is a perfect choice. Sweet Alyssum. Tiny flowers, big impact. Sometimes it's the smallest flowers that make the biggest difference. Sweet Alyssum rarely grows more than a few inches tall, yet it can completely transform the look of a garden. Its clusters of tiny white, pink, leona, or purple flowers spill gently over the edges of containers, soften pathways, and fill empty spaces between larger plants. One of its greatest qualities is its sweet honey-like fragrance, which becomes especially noticeable on cool mornings and quiet evenings. It's the kind of flower that invites you to slow down, step into the garden, and simply enjoy being there. Sweet Alyssum is also one of the best flowers you can grow for pollinators, bees, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects. Visit the blossoms constantly, making it an excellent companion for vegetable gardens as well as ornamental beds. It grows best in full sun to partial shade with consistently moist, well-drained soil. During especially hot weather, flowering may slow temporarily, but cooler temperatures often bring an impressive flush of fresh blooms that continues deep into fall. Garden tip: if your Sweet Alyssum starts looking tired after a heavy bloom cycle, trim it back lightly and give it a thorough watering. In many cases, it'll quickly produce fresh foliage, followed by another beautiful wave of flowers. Our final flower combines beauty, usefulness, and reliability better than almost any other plant on this list. Calendula, the perfect flower to finish the season. If there were one flower that truly captures the spirit of late-season gardening, it would be calendula, often called the pot marigold. Calendula produces cheerful golden, orange, and buttery yellow blooms that seem to glow in the softer light of autumn. It's easy to grow, wonderfully productive, and one of the first flowers many experienced gardeners recommend to beginners. August is an ideal planting time in many regions because calendula actually prefers the cooler weather that follows the peak of summer. Warm soil helps seeds germinate quickly, while mild autumn temperatures encourage healthy plants and continuous blooming. Beyond its beauty, calendula is remarkably useful. The flowers attract bees and other pollinators. The petals are edible and can brighten salads or baked dishes, and generations of gardeners have appreciated the plant for its traditional herbal uses. Calendula thrives in full sun with well-drained soil and moderate watering. Once established, it's refreshingly low maintenance, asking for little more than regular deadheading to keep fresh flowers coming. Garden tip: pick calendula flowers often, even if you don't need them. Frequent harvesting encourages the plant to produce even more blooms, keeping your garden colorful for as long as the weather allows. Few flowers offer such a wonderful combination of beauty, usefulness, and simplicity. It's a fitting reminder that some of the easiest plants to grow are often the most rewarding. August doesn't mark the end of the gardening season. It marks the beginning of a new opportunity, with warm soil, cooler days just around the corner, and plenty of time left before winter arrives in many parts of the country. Now is the perfect moment to fill your garden with fresh color. Whether you choose vibrant zinnias, graceful cosmos, cheerful calendulas, or any of the other flowers we've shared today, every plant is another step toward a garden that's full of life well into fall. Remember, gardening isn't about creating perfection overnight. It's about planting one flower, learning one new skill, and enjoying the small changes that happen week after week. Before you know it, those tiny seedlings become colorful blooms, buzzing pollinators, and moments you'll look forward to every time you step outside. If you enjoyed this video, let us know in the comments which flower you'll be planting first this August. And if you'd like more simple, practical gardening tips throughout the year, don't forget to subscribe to Easy Garden so you never miss the next planting guide. Thanks for watching. And until next time, happy gardening.